How are you, Jorge?
I'm doing well. I'm going to HelloFresh right now to
Thank you.
take advantage of
My
this.
nickname used to be promo code Dean, but now it's China / Dean because there are a lot of commercials we did. Jorge, it's great to see you. Our friend Xorje Olivares is here. He has his own shows, you know, every day. No, every Saturday.
I wish every
noon,
day. It would go with the stereotype of Mexicans working.
You're also part of Tell Me Everything with John as a producer.
Yes.
And you do your own show on Saturday at noon Eastern Time. It's great to see you, my friend.
Likewise.
You're here for a few reasons to cover, but obviously you're from Texas and you were down at Beto's campaign event on November 2018.
Yes.
And so what's your reaction when you see Beto formally running today?
So, yes. So on the night of the midterms, I went down to El Paso and I was a part of the quote unquote thank you event. That was kind of what it was about. And based off of, if you had a chance to read the Vanity Fair cover story about Beto yesterday, he thought he was going to win, and he talked about how he and his wife were driving over and they thought they were going to win. And then when they got the announcement that they lost, kind of changed everything for them. But based off of what I remember from the energy of the crowd when I was there, it was incredibly intense in the sense that everybody was so excited for Beto because he's a hometown guy.
Right.
And he's made his entire, at least political life over the past 2 years about El Paso, about being from the border, about being from Texas and being this Texan guy. And even in the way he was described in this Vanity Fair article, he was outside in his jeans, you know, in his little...
Right, he was hanging out with his socks off and on the cell phone. I read that.
Yeah. And just the imagery alone of the cover photo where he's with the pickup truck and out in the dirt with the dog, and it plays into the narrative that we've already come to recognize with Beto, which is he's kind of a regular dude and he portrays himself as such, which is why I'm one of the people who's not quite upset with his presidential announcement video today. So
you mean the one with his wife?
That yes, the one with his wife.
Over your shoulder right now, running on a loop on CNN, right?
My thing is, he has made his campaign as personable as possible, at least from my own perspective. He has always made it about like the interpersonal communication, making it about you and me. And so here he is in his home. I mean, I'm assuming it's his home, in his living room.
I think it's a Marriott Residence Inn. You get free breakfasts in between free breakfasts.
It's one of those mock apartments where they're like, do you want to see the model home?
Right, yeah.
And so he brings you into his home the same way he's hoping that you're bringing him into yours by watching this video. And it's one-on-one communication. There's no, there's no music in the background. There's no stock people like, let's make college affordable and then have like the diverse cast of characters in the background.
Right.
It's not that. And a lot of other presidential campaign videos, not to take away from those, because those have been really cool and exciting as well.
But you're slamming them now. I like this.
I am right now.
Go ahead.
But this is to me part of Beto's, this is just his MO. This is what he does. And the same part about incorporating his wife. Everyone says, well, why is the wife just sitting there and not talking and just watching
Maybe
him?
she wasn't allowed to talk, as Trump said about the Gold Star Kaiser Khan.
Which is probably
I'm kidding.
No, but he's always talked about, everybody knows Amy. He always talks about his wife, Amy, his 3 kids. He always names his kids by name because it is essentially his way of saying, you are a part of this family. This family is a part of yours. Let's do this together. That's why I think it's interesting that it's Beto for America and not Beto for president, because he's saying that he's for us, with us, and doing that. Obviously, this is just my own interpretation of the events.
That's fair interpretation. I didn't even think about that. The Beto for America is very interesting.
But it's for America. It's him saying, I'm doing this for you because I think that we can do this all together. He's had this message of unity the entire time. The one thing that I don't like about the rollout is, and that's kind of what it's been this rollout of a presidential campaign. Are you going to do it? Or are you not going to do it? You talked to Oprah. You should have come out. You should have said you're running for president when you were talking to Oprah. You're not doing that? Okay. You said you were going to do it at the end of the month. You didn't do it? Okay. You went on this nationwide tour. You're not going to do it? Like, everybody was just so like, just get in the race, dude. If you're going to get in, get in. If not...
What do you think we think of Biden? I mean, Joe Biden is dragging this out forever.
But
you can forgive him for that if you end up choosing to support him or not. I'm not asking you if you are supporting him or not. Are you from El Paso or no? You're from another?
I'm from a town called Eagle Pass, which is the other EP in Texas. But it's essentially the same with regards to border life and what that weird middle ground of Mexican culture and American culture is. Obviously, El Paso is a little bit bigger, and according to Trump, it's the most unsafe place in the world, but it's been historically named as the safest. But there's something about El Paso that is very exciting, and I'm glad that that Beto, when he said when he confirmed that he was going to run, he confirmed to the local TV station in El Paso.
Sure.
Because again, he's made this campaign all about where he's from. And as a border guy, I tweeted this yesterday because it's really exciting for me. There's 3 people in the race who are part of my identities. One being Beto O'Rourke, who's from the border, which is a big deal for me.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is Julian Castro, who's a Tejano, a Texas guy, of Mexican-American descent. And Pete Buttigieg, who is a gay man and somebody who inhabits a space in the LGBTQ community. That's kind of unheard of. And that's just 3 of the dozen or so people who have already announced that they're running for president, not to mention I think now 6 women who are running, and that includes Marianne Williamson. So that's fun and cool, and I don't know if that's ever been the case before.
No, look at the diversity of this lineup. It's remarkable what we're seeing right now. And look at the right side. It's Pence and Trump, and it's 2...
And Bill Ward. And Bill Ward, or what's his last name?
The guy from the former Massachusetts who is he definitely running against Trump?
He said he was running.
I paid no attention to that because there's no chance someone's going to beat Trump unless they're really, really big and they run to the right of Trump and actually wear a Klan hood. Then it's the only way you beat Trump is actually going to the right of him. The Beto in the Vanity Fair article said something interesting. I want to read this a little bit to you. We'll do a reading. Cue the music, please. No, I have no music in here. He said the government at all levels is overly represented by white men because that's part of the problem. And I am a white man. So if I were to run, I think it's just so important that those who would complement and they want something different for this country. I think it's interesting he's acknowledging it because I don't think Joe Biden's going to acknowledge it. I just don't. Nor do I think Bernie is. And it's not a slight. I just don't think it's on their radar to be in touch with what's really going on in the base, where there are people who were like, I don't really want a white man to be the nominee.
Yes, I appreciate that he acknowledges it, but white authority figures, now I'm running to be one too. And I understanding, yes, there's a significance from having a diverse staff and having people behind you who are supporting you who look like other members of America with regards to skin tone, with regards to sexual orientation, gender identity, and just the other factors that come into who we are. But at the end of the day, you are still the face. It was essentially, somebody compared it to, like, let's say you're at a meeting with all these CEOs and the CEO's like, we need to have a diversity training. We need to do this. I will lead it. It's like, well, that kind of defeats the purpose.
So do you think it's going to hurt Beto that he's white, straight male?
I don't think it's going to hurt him with regards to the grand scheme of things. The thing that I think he needs to be careful with is there is a Latino in the race. His name's Julian Castro.
Sure.
And as much as you can play off of the fact that his name's Beto or his nickname's Beto, and that appeals to Latinos in a certain way, the Latino community at large in ways that he'll never be able to. Mm-hmm. Yes, he's from the border, and yes, he speaks Spanish, but this can't be a Tim Kaine 2.0 where we sort of uplift the white man who just so happens to be somewhat ethnic adjacent.
Right.
I think that helps and benefits. A lot of Latinos in Texas very much feel they like him a lot.
Yes, I've had people who are Latino clearly who like him very, very much.
Yeah, but now you have 2 guys from Texas,
sure.
2 Democrats from Texas, 2 guys from really big profiles. And the thing that I find really crazy is, maybe a few months ago, when Beto was still part of the Senate campaign, he went to my hometown and he went there with the Castro brothers. So he's there campaigning with Julian and Joaquin Castro, and now they're both competitors. And I'm sure
there's 2 of them.
There is 2
against Trump. Against Beto. You never know who shows up at an event. The other one shows up. He's at 2 events at the same time. Yes. Genius, because they're twins, folks.
But
by the way,
the thing that Julian did around the same time as Beto's announcement to show, yes, Beto has this enthusiasm factor, and yes, there are a lot of people who are tweeting about him. I mean, so Henry Cisneros is a guy who a lot of people might not know if they're not in that world, but Henry Cisneros is a pretty big deal among Tejanos and among Latinos in Texas, and he's now endorsed Julian Castro. So that says a lot. Yep. So I'm just trying to see what is going to happen in Texas and how people are going to go.
Right. We'll take a quick break because I have no choice, but we'll take a quick break. I would just keep talking. We have to pay these bills here. I want to talk to you about, is there any dynamic that Obama went through where African-American leaders nationally did not gravitate to him until they thought he was viable? And you mentioned now you got Henry Cisneros and others in Texas, but nationally, do you think some will wait to see where Julian Castro, and they're different people. Julian, I don't mean just physically, just as candidates, they're vastly different. I mean, I had Julian on the show once before he was a candidate. And very nice guy. We had the same agent. He was doing public appearances, doing speaking. and William Morris. That's how I got connected.
And you're not running for president,
right? And we would email. But he came on, and he was very much like a politician. Like it was like he was reading answers to questions, and we were just talking. This was a year ago. And Beto, I've talked to him once and had a conversation at a very small event in New York before he was famous. He was just starting to run for Senate. A friend invited me to Soho to a fundraiser. And he was much looser, like more like, hey, what's going on? And there's different, but it's just different vibes. So they're different contrast. I have no idea. So I want to come back though and talk to you about that, and also how the Trump campaign's attempt to undermine Beto is so bizarre. Usually they try to otherize you. They're trying to make him more white, which I think is so remarkable. We've got, because that really is what they're doing. It's stunning to me. When we come back, we'll talk to Xorje about that right after this break.
The Dean Obeidallah Show.
My slogan for Trump in 2020, Trump for prison 2020.
SiriusXM Progress. Back to the Dean Obeidallah Show on SiriusXM Progress.
Welcome back, Dean Obeidallah Show. We're live right here. Our friend Xorje Olivares. So Xorje,
Yes.
Quick thing, and then I want to get into what the Trump campaigns, and they're worried. They're clearly worried about Beto. I think they're very worried about Biden as well, because I think
the
white
ones that
men
they mention
scare
the
them.
most.
Right, they do. Is there any hesitation, you think, in the Latino leadership community and that class of Latino community not to support Julian until they think he's truly viable? Because right now he's like definitely second tier-ish type of thing. He could catch fire. Anyone can. Someone's going to break out.
He did himself a favor with specifically the conversation about reparations.
That's interesting.
That blew up.
That.
A lot of people were talking about how he responded to Bernie Sanders and said, like, hi, why wouldn't we give back money to people who were property
He didn't actually say that, by the way. He played his clip. He said we have a committee to look into, a commission into it. What he said about Bernie, he'll write a check for anything. Why won't he write a check for this?
Yes.
But then he asked him, will you write a check? He said, I don't know. Maybe we'll write a check. I don't know. But that was so funny. We played the clip yesterday. I thought it was funny.
But the idea is there was something that put him on the national stage in a way
that
it was a very good moment for him. And he hasn't had a chance to do that too often since he first announced. When he announced, there were a lot of people who talked about how he was probably one of the better, if not the best at that point, presidential announcement that had been made, that he had the command of the stage. And a lot of Latinos, and this might seem stupid, but for Latinos it matters, at the end of his campaign speech, he played Selena. And when you are from South Texas, or when you are from that generation, that says that you get us and you understand us and you see where our thinking is. So a lot of Latinos, a lot of Latino websites were very happy with where Julian was taking his campaign. The other thing about Julian that I think speaks to a lot of Latinos is that accent mark on his name is a different color for a reason. It's in your face and it's in front and center, so that way you know that he is the Latino candidate who's telling you that he speaks to the community experience in ways that nobody else who's announced so far can do. There was that guy, Ojeda. He was like in West Virginia.
Oh, we had him on. He was West Virginia guy. He was a really interesting guy, but he dropped out.
He was in and then he was out. And then
he dropped out when he realized he had to raise money, and he felt uncomfortable raising money. That's what they said. It's very odd because he was Richard Ojeda came on, and people responded so much to him on Twitter. I could not believe
he's Latino.
Yeah, Ojeda. Yeah, he's Latino. Yeah. So
it's
so
like
he's
Beto, Bito.
All right, so let's shift gears for a second. Here is today. And this has apparently been happening on Fox News. I didn't know this. They refuse to call him Beto on Fox News. Like, their audience is not going to vote for him anyway. But anyway, here is Hogan Gidley, who's second under Sarah Suckaby, as I call her. Hogan Gidley. Clip number 6. This is today. Literally. Clip number 6, please.
Beto O'Rourke is now in the game for the Democratic primary. What's the president think about that?
Well, first of all, you pronounced it wrong. It's Robert Francis. That's number one. Number two, we don't care who gets in the race. The fact is the president's going to win re-election.
They actually wanted to make Beto more white, less exotic, as opposed to otherizing him, which they do to so many people. They literally want to make people realize he's white and Christian, which I think is remarkable. It's Robert Francis O'Rourke. What is your sense when you hear the attempt to de-Latinoize Beto?
Because I think they're trying to get the Latino community against him in the sense that, like, hey, just a reminder, even though his name's Beto, he's not one of you. And I don't think that's going to do much. I think, if anything, if we're talking about first name basis, a lot of people know Beto for Beto. That's why when you looked on Twitter, what was by all accounts, Trump is trying, and maybe his team, or they're trying to make it so that way when they say Robert, it's maybe confusing his white base to think that it's a completely separate person when it's not.
He's been Beto since he was a child. And that's what I read. I didn't know this. That it's the nickname for Roberto.
Yeah. If usually if your name is Roberto, they call you Beto.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that till today. That's why.
Really?
I was reading it. I'm like, I didn't know that.
Yeah, if your name is Roberto, usually you go by the name Beto. If your name is Jose, they usually call you Pepe. If your name is Jesus, they call you Chuy.
Really?
Yeah, those are traditional.
Oh, and my community is different. If your name is Muhammad, they call you Mike. If your
is it really?
Seriously. Every Muslim I know, everyone I meet, I'm Mike. I'm like, Mike Muhammad. Yeah, but I don't want to say it in front of them. I'm like, yeah, you sound like you're from Jersey. Everyone knows you're not from. But no, that's our common thing. I really am Dean. My father wanted Salahuddin, and my mom wanted me to be able to fly. So that's like an old joke, but it's the truth. The truth is he wanted Salahuddin. But no, so people, they're not Americanizing their names. They're just you're right,
literally just using the nickname that would already be assigned to you. And because, especially in the Vanity Fair article, they talk about his dad, this was how it was described by the writer, something that his dad didn't realize that they weren't a part of Juarez because, especially in those border regions, it's so amorphous. You just, sometimes you're there, sometimes you're not. And like I say the same for my border community. My town of Eagle Pass is heavily influenced by Piedras Negras, the town across from ours. And likewise, sometimes you don't know where you are. I mean, you do, but it all melds together that you don't feel like you are the American city and you are the Mexican city and you stay there and you stay there. With the international bridge being as open as it is, and I'm sure someone's going to be like, that's where the caravan is. But life is so easy when you're on the border, and it's so fluid that I understand Beto's dad saying, and eventually Beto, that you feel very much a part of the Mexican community as you do the American community in which you actually live in.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is not unheard of for someone whose name is Robert or Roberto to go by Beto. That's just normal. I'm sure there's a bunch of Betos that live in El Paso and in Eagle Pass and all along the border, and who are Latinos who don't live on the border.
It's different if he had done this before he ran for the first. Like he was a councilman first. If he was running for office, this is a shrewd move.
Mm-hmm.
But everything I've seen, it's from his childhood. It's organic.
He either was with Stephen Colbert, one of the late night talk shows, and they have a picture of him when he was in elementary school, and his sweatshirt says Beto.
All right, so we have to take a break. It's funny, though, I had a conservative call up and wanted to call him Robert Francis, and it reminds me so much of when Muhammad Ali went from Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali, and people are like, no, I'm calling you Cassius. Why can't you call a person? And in this case, it wasn't even a name change now, but let's take a break. We'll come right back with more of the Dean Obeidallah Show.
Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM Progress 127. The Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM Progress 127.
And welcome back, Dean Obeidallah Show. We're live right here, Thursday, March 14th. So look, guys, we all know we're terrible at taking care of our health. Whatever it is, knee injury, back injury, you don't want to go to the doctor. We put it off. We don't want to take prescription medicine. Same is true for erectile dysfunction. Studies show 70% of guys who experience ED don't get treated for it. Well, thankfully, Roman, R-O-M-A-N, a new company sponsoring this show, they've been around for a while, but now they're on this show, has created the easiest way possible to get treated for it. You do it all online. It's one-stop shopping. You talk to a licensed U.S. physician online. You go through the symptoms you have. It's a medical condition. They help you with it. Then they prescribe for you an actual medication that will relieve the problem. Again, Roman, everything's online. All you have to do is go to getroman.com/Dean. That's getroman.com/Dean. You fill out a quick questionnaire, just like at the doctor's office. You talk to the doctor and get an FDA-approved drug sent right to your house. No waiting on lines, no going to the doctor's office, no pharmacy lines, nothing. It could not be easier, my friends. So if ED is a problem for you or for a loved one, check out getroman.com/Dean. That's getroman.com/Dean. Free online visit with the doctor. So, my friend Xorje, we got like a minute, but Jorge's going to stay for a little bit. We have Naira Haq joining us, but Jorge's going to stay for the first block because when we come back, we're going to talk about the national emergency vote.
I should check on my parents. They're on the border. Oh,
are they?
no.
By the way, I mean, we have literally 1 minute, but is the 2,200 detainees by ICE are exposed to contagious conditions. This is human rights violation stuff. The UN should be investigating. This is off the charts. Were you stunned by this? We have 30 seconds.
Yes, and also the fact that we, based off of Kirsten Nielsen's testimony and also Scott Lloyd, they knew that this was going to be traumatic for kids and did nothing about it.
And they don't even know where all the kids are.
They don't even know where all the kids are.
You don't treat a human being like that. You treat someone you not even view as human, that someone you view as chattel. So, all right, we'll take a break, come back. Naira Haq and our friend Xorje is going to stick around for a little while right here live, Dean Obeidallah Show.
The future of progressive radio. This is the Dean Obadala Show on Sirius XM Progress 127.
And welcome back, Dean Obadala Show. We're live right here, Thursday, March 14th, in studio for a little bit with us, continuing on our friend Xorje Olivares.
You can't get rid of me.
I think,
throw me
do
over
we
the
have
wall.
Naira?
You still can't get rid of me.
You can't get rid of me. There's no way. Where's Naira? Is Naira Hawk there? Okay, let's lock her in, our friend here. And joining us as well is our friend Naira Hawk, former State Department official, hosts her own thing, special on this network, and fills in a lot. Naira, how are you? You're here with Jorge here as well.
Hey, Naira.
Jorge is also an amazing host who's got a great Saturday show that I like to listen to.
Oh, thank you.
That's so nice of you guys. I'm just going to leave.
People of color got to support people of color over here.
That's what we're all doing. How dare you?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Naira, Jorge's going to stay for a little bit, and just for the first segment here, because I wanted to talk about the national emergency and the vote that 12 Republican senators apparently didn't think that Trump should become a king. I thought that was really interesting from a political point of view, that they didn't have to take this stand because they know he's going to veto it. And I don't know if they'll ever have the votes to overturn it. But were you surprised at all that it turned out to be not 3 or 4 Republican senators who voted to overturn the emergency, but 12, which is a big part of that caucus? That's like a third of the caucus. Naira?
Oh, me? I thought.
No, you just joined us. I've been talking to him for 20 minutes. I figured let's talk to you, and then I'll go to him. So go ahead.
I am, because let's be honest, in this administration, the idea of supporting constitutional powers and authority is something that they're great on rhetoric, but terrible when it comes to the voting record. So I was surprised that it was 12, and I appreciate that they went out on a limb in their views to cross Trump politically. But if you're not going to do it to protect the Constitution and make sure babies don't end up in cages and waste money and all of the things that come together with this national emergency, even if it is just to deprive Democrats from doing that in the future, there's just so many issues involved with this national emergency declaration. If they weren't going to stand up for our country at this point, I honestly don't know when they would have.
Yeah, because this really was an easy one, but only 12 of the 53 did the right thing. Were you surprised at all, Jorge, that they did this?
I thought it was going to be based off of just the fact that nobody wants to talk about the fact that there's no crisis, that the number was going to be a lot lower. Earlier today, I even tweeted, I said, does anybody remember that we have this national emergency going on? Like,
right.
Is anybody focusing on my hometown and the border? Like, are my parents okay? Are you checking on people to see whether or not they are being overwrought by people who are invading this country the way a lot of the language and rhetoric has been? But I think a lot of people, especially what was trending on Twitter, was Tillis. Everybody was trying to see how
remarkable. He wrote an article saying, encouraging his fellow Republicans to vote against the emergency, then voted for it.
Yeah. I don't know. I think especially when Trump, and I think Naira might have, maybe I saw your tweet about this, but like all he wrote was veto. And I think, like, all right, is this how we're getting all of our information now? You're just telling us your presidential actions through Twitter. But
well, I mean, that's like the only insight we have into anything in the White House these days, because we don't have regular press briefings. It's not like there's any officials actually in place doing these jobs. It's just the president tweeting what he feels like American policy should be.
Yeah.
And breaking news a short time ago, I'm not sure if you guys saw this, Rosario Dawson confirmed she's dating Cory Booker, and it's trending on. It's trending on.
She's got to back him up.
It's trending on Twitter. I'm not kidding. It's trending right now. Rosario Dawson's trending on Twitter for dating Cory Booker, and TMZ caught her, and she confirmed it. She had been waiting for hours in the airport for TMZ to catch her. I'm kidding. No, she was waiting exactly what she told me would be.
Not supporting Bernie this time around.
And that's kind of funny. You're right. What? Should we make anything of this? That Rosario Dawson has come out to say she's dating Cory Booker?
So I had seen rumors of this in the last couple of days, even including Twitter, before TMZ came out. Mm-hmm. So it's been kind of bubbling out there. I just think it's funny that Cory Booker is dating a celebrity, and, sure, let's add some of that into the mix of this crazy election because we didn't have enough going on. But there's no way this woman can say that she's going to vote for Bernie after dating a guy who's running for president.
Do you think,
unless she breaks up with him in the course of this campaign?
Is anybody who's announced, was he the only one who's announced so far who was technically single?
Buttigieg.
I don't know.
Do we know what Buttigieg's deal is?
Buttigieg he's married. He's married. His partner's name is Chasen, I believe. Okay. But I feel like everybody's married or everybody has a partner.
So it's relevant in that way.
And so many people cared about his personal life to say like, oh, is this some bachelor that's going around? So for
do you think though this could be Cory Booker dating one Bernie supporter at a time to pick them all away. Like it starts with Rosario Dawson, Nomiki Khan's, whoever's next. I'm not sure, but what do you though? There's something else going on here. I'm from Jersey, and there's been rumors for years that Cory Booker was gay. And
there's been rumors for quite some time that he was a member of my community, but from what I've heard from other people who have been close on the politics side in New Jersey, he's very much a heterosexual man, and I think her confirming that they're dating, I don't know, maybe it is part of this whole idea to show people that he is somebody who is in a heterosexual relationship. I don't know why, if you'd be afraid the other way around, but he's in a heterosexual relationship. If he were to win the nomination and if he were to win the White House, there would be somebody who would go with him, and he wouldn't just go by himself, which I think would still freak people. I know, wouldn't go alone, but I feel like that still would freak people out.
Donald Trump went on his own. He left Melania up here for a year.
Yes, he did.
That is a good point.
But I think it's interesting, though, the rumors that he was gay and that Trump tweeted once, like a year ago, I know Cory Booker better than he does. And anyone from Jersey or anyone from politics who knew, I'm like, he's trying to raise that Cory's actually gay and I could out him because he would blackmail anyone, Donald Trump. And it's funny, in Jersey, even in political circles, and I have friends who are close friends with him, never was there a time like, oh, that's Cory's ex-boyfriend. So I'm like, I think if he was gay, we would know this by now. And I knew he was at least bisexual because I knew a woman that he had dated. So I'm like, not that it didn't matter, but it became more and more of an issue that he was asked. I'm like, why are so people obsessed? This is Jersey. Of all the states, I swear to you, Jersey is a different type of liberalism. It's more visceral. It's like, do what you want. Just don't bother me and my kids. Don't do anything on the lawn. Have fun. No, because we're visceral. That's a Jersey visceral react, as opposed to New York, where it's like intellectual discussions about the Fourth Amendment and penumbras. Jersey's like, hey, do what you want. Don't bust their chops. Let them do what they want to do. That's Jersey. So it was never an issue at all. But it was weird that it was. And I think that tweet by Trump to me was instantly, what an ass. He's just an ass.
Oh, yeah. I think the other thing is I feel like a lot of people in America aren't ready to elect somebody who is, he's in his 50s now, Cory Booker is?
Close to 50. I think I think he's late 40s, close to 50.
Like not married and entering to the White House. And as much as, we want to see this country as a little bit more progressive than what it is, there are a lot of people who would take issue with the fact that he would go unmarried to the White House. And
okay, so is it unmarried and potentially gay, or is it just unmarried bachelor? Because Buttigieg is married. So at least it's like, he's stable because he's a family man and he's married and he's not going to be running around sleeping with people in D.C. Like,
well, even then that doesn't matter because we have Trump and Michael Cohen pretty much talking about the fact that he's had these affairs.
The family values aspect of this is very rich considering who's actually in the White House right now. So what really would be the problem of having the single man in the White House?
I have no problem.
I would have, but I feel like there are a lot of people who still would, and that's. Yeah. I mean, that just goes to show where we stand.
Now, here, before you came on, we were talking about Beto O'Rourke. On a scale from 1 to 10, do you love him between a 9 or a 10? Like, where do you...
I'm very ambivalent. I'm a 5.
And that's fine. I'm kidding you about that. We were just talking about it. And Fox News is very conflicted because he's a white Christian guy. So on some level, they gravitate. Mm-hmm. Now the best they could do on Tucker Carlson, I'm not carrying the commercial, just a few months ago, he said he wasn't running. Now he's running. He's a liar. I mean, that's literally what they're going with.
Really? That's the best you could come up with?
Plus calling him Robert Francis. Hogan Gidley called him Robert Francis. That's his real name. Refusing to call him Beto. And me and Jorge were talking about why.
Then you got to call Ted Cruz by Rafael.
Yes.
Well, that's the opposite, though. That's Latinoizing him. They're trying to white-eyes him because they want people to know he's white. But what was your reaction when you were a 5 on Beto? And I'm not taking position on any candidate. I like hearing people's their view, who they like and don't. What's your feeling?
So I'm generally 5 or 6 on most people right now in this political campaign. I figure a couple more months will change the game quite a bit. But with Beto, I'm like, if you're going to do I'm just sitting on my sofa having a conversation, announcing things like as if I was doing a fun Facebook video, I'm going to need your wife, if she's going to be sitting in there, I'm going to need you to allow her to say something and chime in versus gazing adoringly at you. I thought that was weird.
So that troubled you.
Everybody else has been including their partners or they're having the conversation. But I'm like, are you really just doing that? My wife is supposed to sit here and stare at me for 5 minutes while I talk to the camera?
I'm watching it right now because it's playing on Fox News as they're awkwardly trying to mock a white guy. and a subservient white woman, which they like. That's the Christian Sharia going to the fullest, because a woman should learn in silence and not teach a man is right from the Bible. But that's interesting you said that, because Xorje brought that up, because I did not watch her video. Then when Xorje was talking about it, it was on CNN.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, she does look interesting. She's just staring at him.
Staring there.
Like Nancy Reagan type of thing.
And I understand the decision to incorporate her, because he always talks about him and Amy. He always brings in his wife, Amy, always on a first name basis.
Then have a conversation of you and Amy.
Exactly.
Or just do it alone.
Or exactly. Or at least, like, this is the thing. If you're going to, and let's be honest, even these announcement videos that happen that look like I'm just talking straight to camera from my heart are very calculated decisions. So if you're going to make this calculated decision to do that versus, like, the America video that Bernie Sanders did, which was highly, put together, they crafted every single image, and it was still very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to do this down home, it's just me being me thing, then I want to know that you being you also involves your family. Like, is this really what you guys are like at home, where she just kind of stares at you all day? I doubt it.
That's my relationship with my fiance. She just stares. She doesn't speak English, so she stares at me.
Yeah, but she's staring at you in a very different way. That's the death
I'm
stare.
kidding. She speaks English.
See, the funny, because
she is an immigrant, but she speaks English. My girlfriend.
If we just literally saw those images from Annie Leibovitz for Vanity Fair,
right?
Like, if they had turned her imagery, if she was behind a camera and recorded a video, it'd be completely different than what we saw with this, So
I think this might pass, though. Right? I think this might pass in a day. But what about, look, we are 3 months from the first debate. And I think the next 3 months, every candidate, I personally, for what it's worth, am giving them all the leeway in the world. But when they get on the national stage in June, to me, that's the race they're all on. And there's no, I don't know the answer. I don't have the nuance. I don't get it. They're not going to say things like that. They're just going to say stuff. And we're like, they don't get it. So the next 3 months, we're going to watch them go out there and talk. But I am so looking forward to June. They're going to be the first debate 2 nights back to back. They're drawing it by, and by the way, people keep saying, but get them to the main stage. They're not doing that. Tom Perez, DNC chair, said they're going to draw by straws unless something's changed.
Oh, interesting.
So it's not going to be like the Republicans top tier at prime time and the other, it's going to be a complete mix. So you can have one that has, by luck, all the big names, and another one has the smaller names which cable news will hate, or it might be a great mix, great variety, which I really hope it is. And it'll be so interesting to see. Think about, like, Bernie and Kamala Harris and Beto, like, watching these.
And Pete Buttigieg just there, too.
Right. Like, all of them just on the stage together, sharing that stage.
Like, how amazing is that going to be compared to what we saw with the Republican 12 people on stage for primary? It is so
all white men and then Carly Fiorina.
And that was like a book fair. It wasn't even like they weren't running for president. They were like selling their books. It's like an infomercial for, like, I want a contributorship.
Such a better representation of what America is. And I like, same thing with you, Dean. I am looking forward to hearing what each of these people have to say and how they're going to really hone in on what aspect of policy we're focusing on.
And you know what? And we'll chat in a second after this once we let Xorje go. But foreign policy's not come up at all. Zero. And I get why, because right now the focus is domestic. We don't have an outside threat really to talk about. We're not engaged in a big war. We have, a little bit military actions going on.
Okay, wait. Pause on that one. The longest war ever is still in Afghanistan. So let's have that.
But it's not one where it's on the news. It's not taking hundreds of thousands of Americans who are there. So it's impacting so many families. For the families there, I'm sure. I once dated a woman whose brother was was serving in Iraq, and the stress on the family at home is off the charts. So if you don't know, like, I saw it firsthand, I didn't realize the impact of not being able to sleep because your brother's at war. So it's not just the person at war; the entire family at home is at war, is with them. So my heart breaks for whoever's family's out there. But if it was 150,000 American troops out there, all those families would be impacted. So it's not that big issue, and I wonder, what is there going to be one foreign policy issue that will become the one that everybody starts gravitating to and talking about, and will it be something beyond the control of everyone, something thrust upon us, or will it be simply this idea that Trump has destroyed our reputation of our nation in the world, that we're not a leader anymore, and that we have to be moral leaders who care about the human rights violations of each of the countries. We're not going to give them a pass because they're going to do a hotel deal with the president.
I think it's going to end up being a values conversation, right? Mm-hmm. This is the values of who we are. Are we the beacon of hope and freedom and democracy overseas, or are we just like all of the other developing countries where we're dealing with corruption and toxicity, or even are heading towards fascism? Like Donald Trump today completely, totally said that, well, I've got the military, I've got the police, I've even got the
bikers.
Trump. So, I mean, he's threatening that if things don't go his way, he has the ability to force it upon the American public. So I think that type of rhetoric is what Democrats will be looking to counter. And honestly, if the Mueller report's out, all of the Russian investigation information is out by then, I think the idea of what it means to be a loyal American will also come into play, because that's a huge, huge negative against Donald Trump, the fact that he's on the side of Ivan Drago and not Rocky.
It's interesting when Trump says, I've got the bikers and the police and stuff. And I'm like, as liberals, what do we have? All the cappuccino drinking, espresso drinking people. We have all the baristas. You like coffee? Like, what do we have on our side? We have all the hemp store. Like, who would we mobilize on our side?
Women.
All right. Now you're getting serious as opposed
Women.
to something.
We've got
I was going to say MS-13, Dean.
Oh, that's right. We have open borders, MS-13. All right. So.
And the women. I'm just saying, like, we've
all
got
right,
women.
so before we're gonna take a break and let Jorge's
Did I say women?
Okay, goodbye, Nair.
Don't be mean to Nair.
No, here's my buddy. We're gonna take a break. It'll just be me and Nair chatting. Jorge, any last thoughts you'd like to add on immigration, on the emergency, on Beto? Anything, something maybe you know about Beto from Texas? Anything?
Yes, I will say every Democrat who's running should be talking about missing children every single day for the entirety of the campaign. Until every child is reunited with their family, that should be the number one thing. We're talking about kids who have already been separated for months at a time from their parents. We don't even know if some of those parents have already been deported. And there's been this system in place for the past 2 years, already admitted by leaders in the Department of Homeland Security, that they knew that this was going to be the case, that they were going to separate parents, and they did so as a way to deter others from coming. And so when you know that there are hundreds of brown kids out there who have no idea when they're going to see their parents and how this is going to ultimately affect them mentally and psychologically moving forward, that is the biggest issue that they should really be focusing on, because we have I think something that Kirstjen Nielsen said on during her testimony. She's like, oh yeah, 3 people have died so far this year. And so if that's the way they're thinking about it so far, that there are others who are likely to either die in U.S. custody or things are meant to happen because of this, that's a really, really big deal. And even wherever people are with regards to the border wall, and hopefully everybody who's running for president does not support the border wall, they should be talking about these kids, because it is absolutely terrible that there has been no mechanism set up by the federal government to make sure that these kids are found.
And last week we played the clips, several clips, 2 nights in a row with Kirstjen Nielsen about they're not in cages, and Benny Thompson, the chair, going, I was there, I saw the cages.
Yeah.
And then Kathleen Rice, the congresswoman, about your policy was to deter, and she went through all of it. And there's another congressman whose name escapes me right now, but we played those clips. So, Jorge, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Nair,
Thanks,
when
Nair.
we're going to come back after the break, Nair, talk about why we should put kids in cages and why that's so important when Jorge's gone. We don't want him here when we have this conversation. So, no, we'll take a break, come back, and talk to our friend Nair about a bunch of foreign policy issues that need to be talked about, like the State Department report came out on human rights violations yesterday, and what they left out might be surprising because Trump might want to build a hotel in some of those places and more. So let's take a break, come back with Nair Huck. And Jorge, thank you very much for sticking around so long. I really appreciate it. Folks, stick around. Be right back.
The Dean Obeidallah Show.
I think Trump clips that they play on the media should come with a health warning saying that if you watch this, you'll get dumber. Never has somebody said so much stupid in so little time as Donald Trump does.
Serious